Well, the world don't move to the beat of just one drum. May not be right for you, may not be right for some. When a man is born, he's a man of means. Then along come the two, they have nothing but their dreams. They got different strokes it takes, different strokes it takes, different strokes for the world. Everybody's got their special kind of story. Everybody find a way to shine. It don't matter what you got, neither like, well, so what? They'll have theirs and you have yours and I'll have mine. And together we'll be fine. It takes different strokes for the world. Yes, it does. It takes different strokes for the world.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Joe Rockstar channel, and this is episode 2 of the Ultimate 2-Stroke versus 4-Stroke video series. Now in the last episode we got a look at the two bikes here that I'm going to be pitting against each other to determine which one I'm going to choose as the bike I'm going to race in the 2019 Arizona Off-Road State Championship Series. So if you haven't seen that video yet, please go check it out. And that goes for all the videos in this series. You know, you might be sitting there thinking, well, why didn't Joe talk about this? Or why didn't he talk about that? Something you might think is important that you think I missed that I did cover in a previous video or that I intend to cover in a future video. But please don't let that discourage you from leaving comments and questions. You might just shed light on something that I missed or forgot to put into the videos. Now in this episode, we're gonna take a closer look at these two bikes, and we're also gonna ride them for the first time. Now, keep in mind, when I'm debating the 2-stroke versus the 4-stroke, I'm trying to focus on the engine performance. But we can't ignore that this matchup isn't totally even. For example, these two bikes are from two different manufacturers, they're two different models from two different years. And many of the features on these two bikes are unique and specific to the make, model, and year of the bike. Now, even though those features might not necessarily have anything to do with engine performance, those features undoubtedly will affect my opinion about these two bikes. So why don't we take a closer look at the differences between these two bikes, starting with the engine. All right, I gotta take a real quick minute to go over the specs, the engine specs on these two bikes. So over here we have the 4-stroke 350, which is made from, I believe they said bottled tornadoes. Category 5 Hurricanes, that's it. So this engine is made from bottled Category 5 or 6 Hurricanes. I have to look that up to be sure. And then KTM went a different route and they bottled a magnitude 8 earthquake into their engine. And you can really feel the difference between those two. All kidding aside, obviously the biggest difference here is the engine types. For the 2017 KTM 300XC, we have a 293.2 cubic centimeter 2-stroke engine putting out high 40s horsepower. It's liquid cooled by split radiators mounted in front of the engine. And the engine drives a crankshaft that delivers power to the rear wheel via the hydraulic clutch through a 6-speed transmission and a 13-tooth front and 50-tooth rear sprocket set. This particular one had a Recluse Radius CX auto clutch installed when I got it. Once I obtain the stock clutch, I will be removing the Recluse for further testing. The Husky, a 2018 FX 350 4-stroke, has 349.7 cubic centimeters, putting out around mid-50s horsepower. It is also liquid cooled by split radiators mounted in front of the engine. Its power is delivered to the rear wheel via the Magura hydraulic clutch through a 6-speed transmission and a 14-tooth front and 50-tooth rear sprocket set. I'm currently testing this clutch stock, but I will be installing this Recluse Radius CX auto clutch as soon as I get a chance to test the 4-stroke's response to the Recluse compared to the 2-stroke. In addition, the 350 has some technological features over the 300. It features electronically controlled traction control and 2 engine maps which are adjustable on the fly. The 2-stroke came with the FMF 2.1 full exhaust system. Now I don't have the stock header and slip-on, so to match that, the 350 has been fitted with the FMF 4.1 full exhaust system. In the first few rides, I rode it with the stock setup to see if the FMF really makes a difference. Spoiler alert, so far the FMF seems like a bust. In fact, to me, there's no difference so far between the FMF pipe and the stock pipe, other than the cosmetics and that the FMF burned through my plastics and my boot. In a later video, I'll be putting the 350 on a dyno to test its stock. Then we'll test it again with the FMF, and finally with KTM and Husky.com setup to see what the real deal is. Thanks to Dave Simon at KTM and Husky.com for the invite, by the way. The two-stroke was delivered to me fitted with KYB conversion forks and a linkage rear shock. They were both dialed in for the previous owner, and while he's a much more experienced and faster rider, were similar in weight and build. This should provide a slight advantage, however the stock setup on the Husky 350 is pretty impressive for stock. The four-stroke is fitted with WP's AER 48 air forks and linkage rear shock, which I have not found the best settings for yet. In fact, I made the first several rides without even adjusting the sag. This bike was set up bone stock off the showroom floor. I set the clickers to the recommended mid settings and the air pressure in the forks to the recommended 139 psi, and all I have to say is wow. Unfortunately, I don't have the stock forks for the two-stroke, and I won't be able to do a fair comparison. But after a few hours on both bikes, the suspension on either one has not swayed me one way or the other. I'm just going to say that both have equally impressive suspensions compared to my previous bike. And that's not much of an endorsement for KYBs, or maybe it's quite a compliment to the WP air forks. One thing that is easily noticeable before even riding them is that the Husky has a higher seat height. It's 37.8 inches with the KTM 36.5 inches. Now this might be due to the aftermarket seat on the KTM. The book says stock the KTM should be the same as the Husky. The two-stroke is also equipped with flex bars, which will be swapped between the two bikes so I can test their effectiveness on each bike and review the flex bars themselves. Now the KTM two-stroke was ready to ride as soon as I got it home, but the Husky needed to be prepped for this first ride. I swapped out the stock plastics to preserve them and added engine protection, linkage protection, a skid plate, and some disc guards. To ensure you don't miss a single episode, subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell icon to receive a notification whenever a new video comes out. For the more serious rock stars out there, you can support the channel through my website at www.joerockstar.com. There you will find links to help keep the channel running via PayPal, Patreon, or purchasing Joe Rockstar gear like hats and t-shirts.
This bike had 0.1 hours on it, and now we're gonna change that. Start out with the easy map first, no traction control, and we'll see what the difference is. Whoa, it's so light. Let's take it through some single track. Experienced the play mounts that I read so much about yet. Front end pushed a little bit there. Good run. I'm shocked. It is a lot better than the 500 out there. And there's absolutely no lack of power in this stuff. There's like nothing about the power difference between the 350 and the 500. I thought this would be a little bit easier on the arms and controllable, but I'll tell you, it's hot. It wants to go, and it's yanking my arms out more than the 500 did when I get on the throttle. So far, so good. This is a awesome bike for my first ride. I know it was really short, but I'm really impressed with this thing so far. Definitely gonna take some getting used to. I can't be as aggressive on the throttle with this as I was with the 500, at least for the start. It's gonna take me a while to get used to it. But I could definitely see after some seat time, this bike is gonna be, it's just gonna be awesome. So now we're gonna try the 300. All right, so here we go on the 300 two-stroke. Just sitting on it, I can feel the suspension is a little softer and it feels smaller than the 350 and 500. Oh, that's actually pretty good suspension right there. The wrong gear. So both bikes really good, the suspension so far. This one feels a little heavier in the jumps. A little heavier and a little less in control, if that makes sense. Seems like the back end wants to kick out to the left on all the jumps so far. Seems like the throttle doesn't hit. Power doesn't hit to the back wheel for like a split second after you give it gas. Let's get out on the single track. Front end doesn't come up as easy, but that's just probably because I'm behind the power band. I think I'm behind the power band when it comes to getting that front end up. I think I'm late with the throttle. Turn's good, nice and tight. So you can tractor this two-stroke. Whoa! And no engine braking. Right off the bat, the first thing I noticed, the difference between the two is the power delivery and the stability, like how planted it feels. The 350 feels definitely more planted, and when you hit the throttle, it does exactly what you think it's going to do right away. With this one, it winds up a little bit, and it's like a split-second difference. It's off. So you got to get ahead with the throttle on this bike, and you have to be in the right gear, and I'm struggling with that because I'm used to just tractoring my 500 around in third gear all over this place. And that worked with 350, but Not so much on this bike. It is possible, but it doesn't feel as responsive when you're in the wrong gear, obviously. Those are the two things that stand out the most on this first ride. Both of them have amazing suspension. Let's talk about fun, only because I think I'm used to 4-strokes, and that's a huge factor for as far as comfort and confidence goes. I felt like I was having more fun on the 350, but I have an inkling, I have a feeling of how fun this bike can be once I learn how to ride it correctly. I definitely don't blame the bike. It's all me. Fatigue. The 350 was much more tiring. It wore me out pretty quick, and it's 120 degrees on the 4th of July here. So that's it for this test, because I got to get home. We're gonna barbecue and hang out with the family. But we got the first ride in on both bikes, and if I let my bias play into it for 4-strokes, obviously I'm gonna have to say right now the FX 350 is in the lead. I would say right now it's still too close to call. They're awesome bikes. Both of these are so freaking cool, so much better than what I was doing before, and I'm really excited to see what the future brings, and it's going to be a really tough decision which one of these I'm going to let go.
Well, the world don't move to the beat of just one drum. May not be right for you, may not be right for some. When a man is born, he's a man of means. Then along come the two. Yeah, nothing but their dreams, but they got different strokes it takes, different strokes.
Now, since I have to live with the decision that I make for quite a while, it's really important that I get this decision right. And it may not just involve whether or not it's a 2-stroke or a 4-stroke and which engine performance I like the best. It might be an overall package decision that I have to make in the end. Anyways, in the next episode, we're going to take a closer look at the science between the 2-stroke and the 4-stroke engine. We're going to take a closer look at their advantages, disadvantages, and some of the things that you can do to overcome the disadvantages. So make sure you've subscribed and you're ready to come back and check out that video as soon as I release it. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.